Or the Prime Minister's announcement, as was our next interview, because a little further east in the seat of Banks, Liberal MP David Coleman has something to lose when Badgerys Creek opens. A little of the noise and congestion that hangs over his electorate each and every day. It lies under the flight path to Sydney Airport, hub for almost 300,000 flight movements a year. David Coleman, you're backing this second airport option at Badgerys Creek. Why?
Oh, well, look, I mean, I didn't obviously want to preempt the outcomes of any cabinet discussions, but my view is that we do need a second airport in Sydney. Sydney's the best city in the world, but it doesn't have the best infrastructure in the world, and putting in place a second airport is going to be a big contributor to providing the infrastructure that we need and taking some of the pressure off Kingsford Smith.
Well, your seat of Banks is heavily affected by aircraft noise at Kingsford Smith. How would it be alleviated by the construction of a second airport?
Well, look, I think anyone who travels to Kingsford Smith can see that it's increasingly crowded, and the joint state federal report on this matter in 2012 said that within a decade or so, its capacity to grow further won't exist. Our infrastructure around Kingsford Smith Airport is often at a bottleneck when people are driving through there. So, in my view, it isn't sustainable to just simply rely on Kingsford Smith to provide the airport that we need for this city. And a second airport will help to give us the capacity we need, which is good for our economy and good for jobs in Western Sydney.
But is there any suggestion that the number of flights or slots into Kingsford Smith would actually fall under a second airport scenario?
Well, Greg, I think in the long run, the key point is that Kingsford Smith can only take so many planes, and we're rapidly approaching a day when that capacity is reached, and obviously it can't go beyond that. So by having a second airport, that helps to take some of that demand, which Kingsford Smith can't take on its own. I mean, I'm 40. I turned 40 a few weeks ago, and my entire life people have been talking about building a second airport in Sydney, and I certainly think that the time to get on with the job has come.
But the owners of Sydney Airport, Kingsford Smith, will of course always jealously guard their business and their business model, which does rely, doesn't it, on keeping those flights as high as they possibly can?
Oh, look, well, Sydney Airports Corporation, they're a commercial enterprise, and they'll seek to do what's in the interests of their shareholders. But what the government will seek to do is what's in the interests of all Australians, and especially everyone in Sydney that needs the infrastructure so that we can get passengers into our great city, so that we can move the freight that we need to move, and not rely on Kingsford Smith to do everything, because it's been a loyal servant of the people of Sydney for many decades, but there's only so much it can do. And by putting in place the second airport, we share that opportunity around, and of course a huge amount of infrastructure that will go in around Badgerys Creek in terms of road infrastructure and other forms of infrastructure can only be a good thing for the economy of Western Sydney.
Yes, well, apart from WestConnex, what sort of transport linkages do you envisage to open up the access from west to east and east to west?
Yeah, well, obviously the north-south corridor is particularly important around the airport. There's obviously a lot of discussion, and in the 2012 government document around the rail infrastructure and so on. And these are the sorts of detailed questions that will be addressed in due course. For my electorate of Banks in Western Sydney, the WestConnex project, and especially the duplication of the M5 East, is a critical piece of infrastructure. The duplication of that M5 East will reduce travel times in peak hour from my electorate to the city by more than 20 minutes, and that's a really important piece of the overall infrastructure plan that we require for Sydney.
All right, well, David Coleman, let's see what the Prime Minister and others have to say on that. Thank you.